Hi everybody, it's Tuesday, April 24th, and this is English class. Hope y'all are doing well today. I want to go over with you first of all the quotations that we talked about in your TAN book. I talked about something called split quotations. So these are some examples of quotations that you might see when you're reading, or you may write them in your writing. First example is, "Let's go to the beach and bring our lunch," proposed Dad. This is just a basic quotation. It's a simple sentence with your speaker indicator is in blue here, telling who said or who proposed this sentence. And notice that the period is at the end of the sentence. What he actually said is in black, and that's enclosed in quotation marks, and there's a comma before the quotation mark to separate what he said from the speaker indicator, which is Dad. All right, let's look at the next one. "I wish we could go for a hike in the mountains," said Janet. "Grandpa used to take us hiking every summer." So here we have the speaker indicator in between two quotes by the same person, Janet. Notice we have to have the quotation marks around what she said here and then around what she said here. These are two separate sentences. The first sentence starts with "I wish" and ends with "said Janet." There's your period. But what Janet said is in quotes. The second sentence starts with "Grandpa" and ends with "summer." And there's your period. And of course, everything she said has to be in quotation marks. Now the split quotation is like this example here. "Can you please come here?" asked Mom, "and help me make a picnic lunch." This is all one sentence. It's split in the middle with the speaker indicator, which is Mom. See, the first half, "Can you please come here?" You have to have that in quotation marks, and then you jump out of the quotation to tell who's speaking, and then you have to have a comma, and you jump back into the quotation to finish what she said. And quotation marks are in front of and behind both sections. The first section, take a pause, and then the second section. But it's all one complete sentence. Okay, and another example. "Let's hurry up and get ready," suggested Brad, "so we can go as soon as possible." Same thing. The first part of what he said is in quotes, followed by a comma, quotation mark. Then there's the speaker indicator, suggested Brad, comma, and then more quotation marks around the last part of what he said. "Let's hurry up and get ready so we can go as soon as possible" is the complete sentence that he said, but the author has put the speaker indicator in between his full sentence. Okay, so these two are called split quotations because the entire sentence is split in the middle with the speaker indicator. All right. Now, you're going to have a new writing activity, new writing assignment. This will be your last writing assignment for the year. Woohoo! You're going to be doing something called a research project report, which you may have done before in the past. So when you do a research project, you have to gather information, right? Say you're doing a research project on wilderness survival. Okay, so you may get a book, and you may look in this book for facts and information, okay? And then you may get another book and get some different facts and information from this book. And each time you look in the book, you will write down the facts and information, and then you'll combine them all together for your paper. Okay, well, we're not doing a project on wilderness survival. That was just for an example. Now, every time you use a book or possibly an article from the internet, that is considered a source text. Now, we have used source texts for our writing this year. We used the story of Moses and the Exodus. We used the story about Archimedes. Those were source texts, the paper that I gave you with the paragraph or 2 or 3 with the information on it. That's considered your source text. Well, for this paper, you're going to be writing a one-paragraph report, but you'll have more than one source text to get your information from. In the past, we've just used one, but now you're going to have two different source texts. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at your first source text, pretending this is a book, and you're going to take notes from that first source text onto your paper. And when you take notes, it's going to be similar to a keyword outline. Okay, you're going to have your lines, you're going to have your topic, then you'll have your information, and then you look at your second source text and you're going to write your notes and information here. Now when you do this, it's going to be similar to a keyword outline. And I hope you were able to download the pages that I posted. But this is what, I'm going to show you what this is what your paper will look like that you're taking notes on. Okay, and the topic for our project is How Rome Began. Okay, and I'm going to have two stories or two articles for you to read and gather information. So let me show you the articles. This is the first one. This is called The City Named Rome. And the second one is called Rome's Beginning. So each article will have different information, or some of it may be the same. So we're going to take notes from the first article, first source text, write it here. Then we'll take notes from the second source text, write them here. And then step 3 is we will look at all of our notes and pick and choose which ones we want. We may want 3 or 4 from this one and 3 or 4 from this one. Or maybe there's only 2 on here that we want, but we want 5 on here. But we're going to pick and choose the most important ones or the most interesting ones, and we're going to put them here into a keyword outline. This is called a fused keyword outline. Okay? And you're going to have 6 to 8 lines of notes or facts. Okay? The facts that you gather you're going to put here, and then you're going to transfer them over to here after you choose which ones you want. And after you get your keyword outline, just like usual, you will use that information to write your paragraph. Okay? So let's go over the first source text. Today what I'm going to do is model with you the two source texts and how to take notes from them. And your homework will be to do the same thing that we've done in class, to read through the source texts and take notes. So this also has been provided for you to print out, both of these, and also one of these is provided you to print out, and this, which is your note-taking. It looks like a keyword outline. It looks like 2 paragraphs, but this is keyword notes. Very similar to keyword outline. So first of all, let me read the first article to you, and then we'll talk about taking notes. The city named Rome. Ancient Rome is one of the greatest empires that ever existed. There is a legend about how it came to be. Twin baby brothers named Romulus and Remus were heirs to the throne of their settlement. Their evil uncle left them in a basket on the bank of the Tiber River to stop them from ruling. They were rescued by a wolf and later raised by a shepherd. When they grew up, they wanted to build a city in the place they had been rescued. As they were planning the city, they fought, and Remus was killed. Romulus built the city and became the king. The city was named Rome. Okay, and this is a picture of a coin that has the 2 brothers, Romulus and Remus, on here. All right, this is written by a V.M. Hillier. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take notes on our keyword outline note-taking sheet. Now, what I want to do before that is I want to show you how you can go through your source text and highlight or underline keywords that you think are important or the facts that you want to include in your paper. So I'm going to highlight legend, and it's about Romulus and Remus. Okay, so when I go back to actually take my notes, I'll have this highlighted so I can find it easily. Okay, they were heirs to the throne of their settlement. Okay, their uncle, remember we can only have 3 key words per line, so I can't underline or highlight a lot of words. Their uncle left them, I'm not going to underline them, you could draw a basket if you want, on the Tiber River. And for river, we'll just put R because that's our abbreviation for river. Okay, rescued by a wolf, remember this is a legend, and raised by a shepherd. Okay, and then when they grew up, they wanted to build a city where they had been rescued. They fought, and Remus was killed, and Romulus built the city and he became the king. Okay, so those are the key words that I'm going to use to write my notes. Okay, so your topic is not actually any of these key words, it's just the title or the main idea of what you're writing about. And this is how Rome began. Okay, so the first thing I have is there's a legend about Romulus and Remus, okay? 3 words. Next, I have that they were heirs to the throne of their settlement. Heirs to the throne of settlement. Then we have their uncle. You could put an angry face next to him if you wanted to indicate that he was evil. Left them on the Tiber River. And in case you don't know what Tiber R is, I just put some water there if you want to write that to help you remember. Rescued, wolf. If you are an artist, you could draw a wolf head or a wolf here. Who raised, and I put SH for shepherd and 2 shepherd staffs and a sheep. So that kind of helps remind me of shepherds. Grew up, and they planned a city. Because they didn't build the city before they fought. They fought before the city was built. So they actually were just planning it. Okay, so they grew up, and I didn't put build because they didn't build it yet. They were just planning it. Okay, then they fought, and Remus was killed, and Romulus became king. Okay, so that is your first source text and the notes. These are called, each line is a fact or a note. Okay, the legend of Romulus and Remus is a fact or is a note. Okay, each one of these indicates a point or a fact that you want to write about in your paper. Okay, their uncle left them by the river. Okay, so if I say your notes or your facts, I'm referring to one line is a note or a fact. All right, let's go over the second source text. And this one is called Rome's Beginnings, and it's by Jackson Spielvogel. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to read it through, and then I'll go back and highlight the keywords. The city of Rome began with small communities of Latin-speaking shepherds. They had settled around 7 hills in Italy near the Tiber River. The river helped them become very successful farmers and traders. Soon they joined together to form a powerful army to protect themselves and to invade surrounding villages. The first king, Romulus, began to rule in 753 BC. Over time, the city grew into an enormous empire because the Romans cunningly governed the people they conquered. Then legends and myths began to be told about its beginnings. The most famous is the legend that says Rome was started by Romulus. He and his brothers were twin boys who were supposed to have been raised by a wolf. When Remus was killed in a fight, Romulus became the king of the soon-to-be great city. So I'm sure you noticed that some of the information that we read in the first text is repeated here in this text. So one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to repeat anything that we already wrote about from the first text. We just want to get new information here. All right, so let's go again and highlight the key words that we're going to use. The city of Rome began with communities, and I might put SM for small, but they were communities of Latin-speaking shepherds. Shepherds is the main idea. Lat you can abbreviate with LAT. They had settled near 7 hills, and you can use the number 7 for that, near the Tiber River. Again, Tiber R. The river helped them to become successful. They were successful farmers and traders. And then what did they do? They joined together to form an army to invade. And the reason I picked invade over protect is because the fact that they invaded surrounding villages is what caused them to begin to grow into a greater empire. All right, the first king, and you can use numbers for first and a crown for king, was Romulus, and he began to rule in 753 BC. Those are numbers in abbreviations, so you can write those without fear of choosing too many words. Over time, the city grew into an enormous empire. Notice the because clause. Because the Romans cunningly governed the people, they conquered. Also the OY adverb. All right. Now, the legend, we've already got information about that, so I'm not going to copy any of that information to my next note. Okay. So again, we have the same topic. They're both how Rome began, because that's the topic of our paper. So, it began in communities of Latin-speaking shepherds. So I have this LAT abbreviation. They settled around the 7 hills near the Tiber River. They became successful farmers and traders. And then they joined together. They made an army that invaded surrounding villages, conquered people, etc. In 753 BC, the first king was Romulus, and they grew into an enormous empire. Okay? So there are your notes or your facts that you will choose from to put on your keyword outline. So this page here, I've posted this for you also. You can print this out to write your keyword outline, choosing some from here and some from here. Okay, so you only have 7. You can choose 6 or 7 facts. 3 from here, 3 from here, 4 from here, 3 from here. Whatever combination you want that tells a logical story and flows well. Now, for tonight or today, your only homework is to write out your notes of the facts from your source texts. Okay? So again, you're going to take your source text 1 and write down the notes. You're going to take source text 2, write down the notes, and that's all of your homework for tonight. Okay? Next time, you'll be combining these to create a fused keyword outline. But don't worry about this now. Save this for next time. Okay? If you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask me. And we'll get on with that. Okay. So, let's move to The Horse and His Boy. All right. One thing I want to go over with you, and I think is helpful for me a lot of times when I read a book with a lot of characters, is to look at a character list. Sometimes they get confusing, especially when their names are strange names that we've never heard before. So let's just go over these people, or characters, to make sure we all know who's who. Also places. Okay, so Shasta is the protagonist. He's the main character, the good guy. Arshish is the Calormene man who finds him when he's a baby and raises him like a slave in Calormen. Bree is the Narnian warhorse that helps Shasta to escape. Hwin is also a Narnian horse belonging to Erebus, who is the young girl called a Tarkina, just like a princess, she's the member of the ruling nobility in Calormen, and she is, all of these, Shasta, Bree, Hwin, and Erebus, are escaping from Calormen to try to get to Narnia. We all know that by now. Okay, on the way they meet King Edmund, one of the kings of Narnia. Just so you know, there are 4 kings of Narnia. There's Edmund and Peter are the 2 brothers, and Susan and Lucy are the 2 sisters. Now, so far we've only met Edmund and Susan. The High King is Peter because he's the oldest. But there is also Edmund and the queens Susan and Lucy. Okay, then we meet Corin, who is the young prince of Archenland. Remember, Archenland is the country that's between Calormen and Narnia. Oops. All right, so then we have Lazarine. Lazarine, I pronounce that differently at times. Lazarine is Erebus's socialite friend in Tashbaan. And she actually helps her to escape, as we saw a couple chapters back. Then we have Ahashta. Ahashta is the older Calormene noble to whom Erebus is betrothed. And we saw him for the first time in the chapter where Erebus and Lazarine were hiding behind the couch, and Ahashta and Rabidash and the Tisroc came in and had their discussion. But it described him as being old and wizened. So, and she doesn't want anything to do with him, and that's why she's trying to escape. Then we have Rabidash. He is the prince of Calormen, son of the Tisroc, who wants to marry Queen Susan. The Tisroc, of course, is the king of Calormen. And then we have met the Hermit of the Southern March. And he's a wise man, wise old man with a big beard. He gives shelter to Erebus and Bree and Hwin, and tells Shasta to keep on moving, but he has some wise words for Bree. And King Lune is king of Archenland, which is actually Corin's father. And then Aslan the Lion, the high king of all kings in Narnia. Okay, which was just revealed in, I think, the last chapter or 2 that we've read. Okay, the places are Calormen is the country southeast of Narnia. Whoops. Calormen, way down here. This, remember, is where Shasta, his boat came ashore, and this is where Arshish found him. Okay, and they rode up through Calormen to get to Tashbaan, which is the capital of Calormen. And then Archenland is the country to the south of Narnia. This is Archenland, Narnia. And Archenland is where they are now. Anvard is the capital of Archenland, where the castle is, where King Lune lives. And that's where Rabidash is heading first. And you may have heard mention, Narnia, of course, the country of Aslan, and where they're heading. You may have heard mention of Cair Paravel, and that is the capital city of Narnia, where King Edward and King Peter and King Susan and Queen Lucy. Queen Susan and Queen Lucy live. And Cair Paravel is up here on the coast. Okay, so last we have seen they passed over from the tombs to the gorge. They crossed the Winding Arrow River into Archenland. This is the border of Archenland. And this is the pass, the mountain pass, that Shasta goes through during the night. And this is Anvard, the capital, where Rabadash is heading to take over Archenland so he can get to Narnia. All right, so let's talk about our vocabulary and our questions from the past couple chapters. So in chapter 10 we have fetlocks. Fetlocks are the joints in a horse's leg down near the ankle. It talked about when they crossed the river it was up to their fetlocks, so it wasn't too deep. Heather is a purple-flowered, low-growing plant, and conceit is excessive pride, and if it's self-conceit, it's excessive pride in oneself, of course. All right, so the questions were, name the river that Shasta and his friends crossed on the border of Archenland, and we've already mentioned that it was the Winding Arrow River. And interestingly enough, the country is called Archenland, land of archers, and the Arrow, Winding Arrow River. Okay, and when they looked back, when they were here, they looked back over the desert, and they saw something that looked like smoke, fire, sandstorm. What was it? It was actually Rabadash's army coming, charging to get to Anvard. Okay, and what was his main goal? He wanted to take Anvard so he could go take Narnia, so he could marry Queen Susan. Okay, then we have described the enclosure where they were kept safe. This is the hermit's dwelling right here, where they were kept safe while Rabadash's army passed. It was a circular enclosure bordered by a high wall of green turf. It had a still pool surrounded by nice green grass with a huge tree, a stone house, and goats were grazing nearby. It sounds like a very peaceful place. And lastly, why does Bree feel that he's only fit for slavery now? He was moping and not talking to anyone, and he's feeling really down. But it's because he left everyone to be eaten by the lion, and just to save his own skin. And he's feeling a little ashamed of that now. All right, let's go on to chapter 11. The first vocabulary word was bracken. And bracken is like a tall fern type of plant with coarse fronds. Furlong, Rabadash said we're about a furlong from the castle. How far is that? It's about 1/8 of a mile, or 220 yards. And that is approximately 2 city blocks. So they were 2 blocks away from the castle. It's pretty close. All right, and medal, M-E-T-T-L-E, not to be confused with medal, M-E-D-A-L, like you earn, or you earn at the Olympics. But this type of medal is the ability to cope with a difficult circumstance. Okay, are you willing to stick it out, or are you going to run and hide? Okay, question number 1. What had Shasta done 100 times in the past few weeks with Bree? This also gives you kind of a timeline of how long it's taken them to get this far. But what had he done? He had mounted. He learned to mount the horse. In the beginning, it was very difficult for him. He wasn't used to riding. But he learned how to mount, and he did it well. Number 2, Shasta asked the lion why he wounded Aravis. Everybody wants to know that, right? Why did he even do that? And what was Aslan's answer? He said, quote, "I'm telling you your story, not hers. I tell no one any story but his own." So basically, that's her business, and I will talk to her about it. But you be concerned with the things that you need to be concerned with, not her business. All right, and number 3, the last question for this chapter was, what was the name and the title that was given to the lion? Names and titles. Okay, of course, and his name is Aslan. And he was also called the son of the emperor beyond the sea, and the high king above all kings in Narnia. Because remember that Peter, Edmund's brother, was the high king of Narnia, but Aslan was the high king of all kings in Narnia. All right, so that's it for The Horse and His Boy. And for your homework today, remember that you're going to be writing the notes from both of your source texts. So you're going to be using both source texts and filling in your notes just like a keyword outline. No more than 3 words, but you can use as many numbers and symbols as you want. You're going to complete source text 1 and source text 2. And then, of course, you're going to read Horse and His Boy, Chapter 12, and complete the vocabulary words first, and then answer the questions. Okay, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.